Ask any nurse what's the worst part of their job, and the answer you're most likely to get is, where do I start? From being kicked, punched, bitten, scratched, spat on, cursed, nurses across America, the Caribbean, and the UK say things have gotten so bad that they're looking to transition out of the industry altogether.
There are some things that I had absolutely no idea that was going on. People would be surprised at the things that actually goes on in the healthcare field, especially in nursing.
Nurses say patient violence, long hours, extreme wear and tear on their bodies, irregular schedules, and unsupportive administrators who often side with the patient are driving them away. Now, some people say it's part of the job. Nurses say it's abuse. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the This Bahamian Gal podcast. I am your host, Rogan. So happy that you guys have decided to join me this evening. Happy Monday, by the way. Oh my gosh, it's almost April. The time is just zooming on by. My goodness. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Mine was super busy. I am still on the mend from my cold when I came back from my vacation, and I'm feeling much better now. So, it's back to business. So let's just jump right into today's episode. I had done a video on teachers who were quitting the profession. I think that was last year. And I read my comments. I don't get to see all of them, but I do try to read through as many as I can. And it was like, there are people inside of the comment section who were nurses who were like, everything that this girl is talking about, meaning me, about the teachers is what we're dealing with inside of nursing. And it was just like, go through the comments yourself. It was like so many comments from nurses. I was like, that's a story, because they're definitely dealing with this as well. I used to think a lot of nurses were happy, and I thought it was like any other profession where, yes, you're going to have people who are exhausted and they just don't want to do the job anymore. They want a career change. But the more I started talking with people, because I have nurses in my family, I have friends who are nurses, but the more I started talking to them, I realized just how crazy it is. Things are so bad in the Caribbean, for example, that nurses are leaving to take up jobs in the US, the UK, and Canada. According to the Pan American Health Organization, the Americas needs between 600,000 and 2 million more healthcare professionals to address its needs. And according to recent estimates, Latin America and the Caribbean have around 44.3 nursing professionals per 10,000 inhabitants. Now, according to the latest data, and this is from the 2021 to 2022 statistics, and this is coming from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, healthcare workers and social service workers experience the highest rates of injuries caused by workplace violence, and they're also 5 times as likely to be injured at work overall compared to all other workers. So we often talk about what's happening here in the United States, but we don't really venture out to talk about what's happening in, say, like the UK and Canada, because Canada is no different, for example. And according to the Financial Post over there in Canada, Canada's healthcare system is struggling to retain young workers. There was also this report by the Montreal Economic Institute that said that nurses were leaving the profession before they turned 35. So you had a lot of nurses who were coming in eager to work, and then they saw the okie doke, and then they were like, I'm out of here. That think tank, by the way, estimates that by 2030, which is only 5 years from now, less than 5 years from now, the Canada is going to have a shortage to the extent of like 118,000 nurses, something like that. And even though you have a lot of nurses leaving the Caribbean and Africa and the Philippines going to the UK, the Royal College of Nursing estimates that they're also going to have a shortage in the years to come. So let's talk about what's driving this burnout, because I find that a lot of nurses, they experienced burnout before the pandemic, but when the pandemic hit, that's when they were like incinerated. So what these nurses are saying is that they're dealing with a lot of staff shortages, and anybody who has been in an environment where a lot of workers have quit and then they had to deal with their co-workers' work. And sometimes the job is like, well, it's being handled by the few people we have here, so we won't go rush out to find someone. So now you have a few nurses being inundated with the work of many other nurses who have left the profession. So that's contributing to the burnout. A lot of people just have left, and then the people who are remaining have to deal with carry their workload. A lot of these nurses are also dealing with low pay. And I don't work in a hospital facility. I've never worked there. But I always thought like nurses were well taken care of financially, because they're doing like a yeoman's job. It's so hard dealing with sick patients. You're putting yourself at risk. And I never understood how teachers and nurses and, police officers and anybody who's putting their life at risk, or anybody who is doing crazy hours, or anybody who is like burnt out on the job, how they're not being paid amongst like the best in society. But a lot of nurses talk about not having good salaries. And I want to read something that I spoke to one on condition of anonymity. This is what she said. She said, quote, "People think nursing and nurses are top tier. We are struggling financially. When I first got in the profession, I was looking at buying a home. The bank manager actually laughed in my face and told me to find someone who can co-sign a loan with me if I want a house, because that won't happen. The patients have all the rights." This nurse also told me that there's really no incentive to get a higher degree because it's not going to, and this nurse is in the Caribbean. Let me be very clear. I don't know how it is in the UK, right? But this nurse said if she got, say, a master's degree, it would only result in like an extra $50 a week in her paycheck. So basically you'd be getting that master's degree just for yourself, because there's, or at least if you're in, and this person works in a major hospital, and it would just amount to an extra $50 in her paycheck every single week. That's crazy to me. I also think about the impact that a shortage of nurses can have on the patients, because if you have fewer nurses to deal with patients, then the patients aren't getting the attention that they need or deserve. They could be sitting, or lying there waiting for someone to come, and there's just not enough people to service them. And then that can also lead to mistakes, because if you're talking about someone working irregular schedules, or they're burnt out, or they're subjected to patient violence or violence from from the patient's family members, that's a lot of mental anguish on those people as well. And so that could lead to mistakes in, giving dosages to people or injections, that sort of thing. And we might think that's a long shot, but it's not. I mean, these are human beings. There's human error. People make mistakes. And I also am concerned about these nurses. You are on your job for extended hours, you're burnt out, and then you go behind the wheel and drive home. That could be detrimental to them and to somebody else as well. A lot of things to consider. Not having sufficient nurses around means you're going to have a reduced quality of care, longer wait times for treatment, and there's an increased risk for medical mistakes because people are burnt out, they're tired, they're exhausted. Sometimes nurses don't even get a chance to eat properly because there's just not enough people there to service the patients. So you just got to keep going.
I got to put me first. I got to put me first, Lucian.
There are some things that I had absolutely no idea that was going on. People would be surprised at the things that actually goes on in the healthcare field, especially in nursing. I had absolutely no idea that it was even possible for a grown woman or man to go to their job and be bullied. I had no idea because it made no sense. It makes no sense, and it would never make any sense that a grown person could actually go to their job and be bullied. It's happening. It really happens. People are being bullied.
Look at the bottom of this assignment sheet. Notice anything? The best way to appreciate your job is to imagine yourself without one. Kind of seems like a threat to me, right? So you don't speak out against the really unsafe assignment.
Here's the reason why I quit my last nursing job, and it has nothing to do with my patients. It was actually another nurse. Surprise, because nursing is just that toxic. Here's what happened. I get to work, 7 o'clock in the morning, my patient needs an MRI. I was like, that's fine. I get him, we go downstairs, MRI, and MRIs take up to like an hour. So I just sat in the empty waiting room by myself for an hour. He finished, we went back upstairs. No problem at all. And then my manager taps me on the shoulder and goes, Alex, a nurse came up to me directly to report you. And at first I was mortified because what did I do wrong? Did I hurt someone? And she was like, no, it was because you were tapping your foot. I am not joking. For tapping my foot in the waiting room. And the second craziest part is, it was a random nurse from the pediatric ICU walking by, saw me, went to the 10th floor, and reported me to my own boss. And at first I was like, What is wrong with tapping my foot in the waiting room? And also, I don't even think I did that. For me, this was like what broke the camel's back, because things like this just happened all the time for some reason. And I was just like, I need to get out of here because this is crazy, because it was a random freaking nurse.
So where are these nurses going once they make the decision, like they've checked out and they just want something different? Well, a lot of them are looking for more flexibility in their job. So some of them are doing hybrid roles. Some of them have downgraded from full-time to part-time jobs. They'll come in for a few days or a few hours, make a couple bucks and just get out of there. And that's helped them improve their work-life balance. I've spoken to nurses who have said that. Some of them are going to other facilities that are offering more money and more flexibility. And some are just transitioning out of nursing altogether. Like they went in open-eyed, doe-eyed about the profession. They got in and saw that it was not what they expected. Then you also have nurses who aren't interested in going to another medical facility. They've been so scarred by what transpired that they just have left the profession altogether. Some of them have moved into customer service and some other facet, but something that offers more work-life balance and a little bit more structure, and of course, more money. A lot of times too, you'll see like hospital administrators will say, well, one of the things that we offer our nurses are wellness programs. We love, to make sure that they're okay. We want to make sure they're managing their stress. And the nurses will tell you that they're looking for something a little bit more tangible than just a wellness program. What's more tangible? More money, more flexibility with the schedule, or a set schedule, so that they don't, every week isn't different, because you have to also realize that a lot of these nurses have families. So you can't even like schedule time with your family, because you just don't even know what your schedule is going to look like. So they're looking for more of that. And they also want improved staffing, because what's the sense of giving them more money if you're not going to bring in more people? And a lot of times these hospital administrators will say, well, we can't afford to bring in people and give you a higher salary. So which one do you choose? If I were a nurse, I'd say, you know what? Bring in more people and distribute the work evenly. And I know that sounds crazy. People will be like, oh, just give me more money. But you have to think about what comes with more money. If they give you more money and they don't hire more staff, then you're going to feel every single penny that you earn, because the burnout is not going to discontinue. Now they're going to have greater expectations of you, that you will work these crazy schedules, that you're not going to have more flexibility because we're paying you more. So I would just be like, nah, bring in more people and give me a more regular schedule, because I'm burnt out. Another thing that really blew my mind when I was researching this topic is the fact that 50%, that's half of nurses, quit within the first 2 years. If that's not a scary statistic, half of your workforce is like, I'm out in like 2 years. They have a serious turnover problem that should tell you that there's a serious fundamental foundational problem that is leading people to walk away within 2 years.
Welcome to Night Shift, Veronica. It's going to be a wild ride. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Just a quick question. Who do I see to get my uniform?
You go across the street to the uniform store and buy your own scrubs.
I have to buy my own uniform?
Yes, that's correct. It's your responsibility.
Okay.
And we don't reimburse. Mm-hmm. You're expected to be clocked in by 6:45 at the latest.
What time is the lunch break for night shift?
Oh, you're serious. There's no set time. You kind of just, if you can make it, you make it. If not.
Okay, so we start at 7 p.m. What time does the cafeteria close?
The cafeteria closes at 7.
Oh, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense.
There are a ton of fast food restaurants you can choose from.
All right. And then we leave at 7 a.m.
You're scheduled to leave at 7 a.m., but if your relief doesn't show up, or if there is an emergency or you're mandated, then you need to stay.
So a 12-hour shift, but then if our relief nurse doesn't show up, we stay
Exactly.
longer?
Exactly.
And then I come back for my shift that night.
Exactly. You got it.
All right. And then do we get like the 2 15-minute breaks in case we got to use the bathroom?
We recommend you wear a diaper. You may not get a chance to use the bathroom throughout your shift, just like you may not get your lunch break.
Okay. Can I know the pros of working here at this hospital, or any hospital?
Well, we are the 10th most profitable hospital in the United States. And that's it.
For right now, I would like to withdraw my application. Just for right now. I just need to go consider that the list of cons is just a list of cons, not a list of pros and cons.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Look at the bottom of this assignment sheet. Notice anything? The best way to appreciate your job is to imagine yourself without one. Kind of seems like a threat to me, right? So you don't speak out against the really unsafe assignment.
The nurses say heavy workloads, poor sleep quality, and even being picked on by senior nurses is driving them away. And that's something I've heard of a lot. Like, rather than a lot of these senior nurses sort of take them under their wing and teach them how to, like, you know, be on the job effectively, they sort of like haze them and treat them terribly. So the nurses, especially if they're younger nurses and they have like a really good career ahead of them, they're like, I'm out. Y'all deal with that foolishness.
There are some things that I had absolutely no idea that was going on. People would be surprised at the things that actually goes on in the healthcare field, especially in nursing. I had absolutely no idea that it was even possible for a grown woman or man to go to their job and be bullied. I had no idea because it made no sense. It makes no sense, and it would never make any sense that a grown person could actually go to their job and be bullied. It's happening. It really happens. People are being bullied.
COVID-19, without a doubt, put a serious strain on the healthcare system. And I think we're still feeling that, or at least the nurses who are still involved, and some doctors as well. It's not just the nurses, but, you know, they're all feeling that as well. Let's talk about the violence, because I don't think that gets enough attention. And, again, there are some people who are like, well, you chose this profession. You chose to be a nurse, so this is what comes along with it. And that shouldn't come along with it. Everybody should have an expectation that if they're on their job, that they're going to be safe. You cannot just go and pop off inside of an airport, although some people do, but there are serious consequences for it. And nurses report being abused by their patients. And, you know, it's like, ho hum, big deal. Just get over it.
Let's play a little game of what happened to the patient that assaulted the nurse and changed their life forever. So 2021, 3.5 years ago, Lowell General Hospital, Saints Campus in Massachusetts, a 65-year-old homeless psych patient in the emergency department attacked a 28-year-old nurse with a fire extinguisher from behind. The nurse was sitting there charting, and he attacked her from behind, bashed her head with the fire extinguisher, and then did it a second time like baseball bat style, and then took off running around chasing another nurse intending to hurt them. Take a look. This is all I could get. Most of the video is redacted because it's pretty graphic, but you can get the idea here. The nurse suffered a skull fracture, serious brain injury, a bleed, was hospitalized, can no longer work in the emergency department due to the PTSD. You know, it's pretty much changed her life forever, right? What do you think happened to him? Just, I think, this past week, he finally went to court. There was some concern that he was going to, plead like insanity and not be held accountable at all. But I guess we should be grateful that he was found guilty. His punishment, 2 years probation, suspended sentence. Because nurses are not valued. Our lives are deemed worthless to anyone and everyone that has any impact and ability to make any decisions and change, right?
So I want to hear from my nurses, and not just American nurses from the Caribbean. If you're watching this, please drop a comment. I want to hear. I think it's good too to hear what each nurse from different jurisdictions are going through. If you're in the UK, please drop your comments down below. If you are from a country in Africa, please drop your comments down below. And also just, share your success stories. If you have any, share your horror stories. What's the worst thing that you've dealt with? If you're a nurse or a former nurse who was in that statistic of 50% of nurses that got out within 2 years, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What was the moment? Because it has to be something. Like, was there like one thing, or was it just like a number of things? But what was it that really just got you out of there, like tendering your resignation? So drop your comments down below. If you prefer to leave a voicemail for me, which would be great, and I could always put that inside of another video, please go to my blog, thisbahamiangal.com, and you'll see leave a voicemail box on the right-hand side of the screen. It's on the bottom if you are on a smartphone. Leave your message up to 90 seconds. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Follow me on my blog and also follow me on Instagram at This Bahamian Gal. I cannot wait to hear from you guys. Thanks for listening to the This Bahamian Gal podcast. Don't forget to rate the show and leave us a review. And be sure to follow me on YouTube and Instagram at This Bahamian Gal. Also, we want to hear what you have to say, so weigh in on the conversation by emailing us at beourguest@thisbahamiangal.com. That's beourguest@thisbahamiangal.com. Or by going to our blog, thisbahamiangal.com, and leaving us a voice message. Yes, if you're on desktop, you'll see the leave a voicemail button on the right of the screen. If you're on your smartphone, which I'm sure a lot of you are, you'll see it at the bottom of the screen. We cannot wait to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.